Deck tech of Alela. I've had this around since forever. Had an enchantment version. Now I have a artifact version, and that's what this is right here. Alela, Artful Provocateur, one in a white and a blue and a black for 2/3 flying lifelink death touch. Other flying creatures you control get +1/+0. And whenever you cast an artifact or an enchantment, create a 1/1 flying fairy blue token. Pretty sweet one. I'm sure everybody's played against a version of this or another, and very popular, right? Pretty powerful. Let's go through this deck. Huh? All right, it's going to be random. Proxies are in it too, but Dawn of the Age enchantment that's going to allow me to draw. So when it comes into play, you get a counter on it for each creature you control, and then at your upkeep, remove a counter, draw a card. Pretty sweet way to create fairies and draw cards. Consulate Crackdown, an enchantment that exiles your opponent's artifacts, also creating a fairy. Spire of Industry, getting you colored mana for artifacts. Enduring Curiosity, it's an enchantment that whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you get to draw a card. It's going to draw you a bunch of cards and make a fairy. Basic land, Inkmoth Nexus. There are some pump abilities also making it. Layla in play makes it a 2/1. So at the very least, 5 cracks and you're going to win the game. But this is just an easy way to kind of end someone if you can get through. Tezzeret Agent of Bolus. Basically, you got a bunch of artifacts in play, and you have a little bit of reach. Something to get around any Pillow Fort style. So it's like somebody target player loses X amount of life times 2 for as many artifacts as you control. That's essentially what it's there for. Vidalcan Archmage. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, draw a card. So draw. Spell Stutter. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2 and an additional 1 for each fairy you control. So just some on theme counter spelling. I don't do a lot of counter spells, but I have been doing more of it lately. So counter spell it is. Meticulous Archive. I think everybody loves the Surveil lands. Scrubland. Urza, High Lord Artificer, basically turning those artifacts into mana, and you're gonna ramp like crazy. Inspiring Statuary, turning your artifacts into mana as well, also creating that fairy. Fetch land, Thought Vessel. You draw a lot of cards in this deck. Might as well keep them. Tigwill, Duke of Splendor. Other fairies you control get +1/+1, and whenever another fairy you control dies, you draw a card and lose a life. So a little bit more of a pump, a little bit more draw, a little bit more death touch, stuff like that. You have Flowering of the White Tree. It's a pump for everything, a little bit of protection for Layla. Also, casting creates a fairy. Idol of Oblivion. You're kind of a token deck. Tap it to draw a card. Also creates a fairy, so it works instantly with a Layla in play. Baleful Strix, an artifact that will create a fairy when you cast it. Also, ETB, draw a card, death touch, cheap. Junk Winder. Again, you're a token deck. Whenever a token comes into play, when you have Junk Winder in play, you get to tap down something that the opponent has, and it gets a stun counter. Also, Affinity 4 tokens allows this to be a lot cheaper than 7 mana. Crashing Drawbridge. You can make a lot of fairies at one time. Might as well give them haste. Also, casting it creates a fairy. Spell Skite, protection, redirecting, spot removal, and also creates a fairy. Sunken Hollow, Watery Grave, Grand Architect. Blue, it allows blue creatures to tap for artifacts, spells, and abilities. Also, blue creatures get +1/+1. So it's a pump, it's a mana rock, it's crazy in this deck. And Tundra, there we go. I believe I generally run 35 or 34 to 36 land per deck. Hall of Heliod's Generosity, just to get some of those enchantments back. Command Tower, Smothering Tithe for that ramp. Archway of Innovation, turning those artifacts into more. The next spell you cast has improvise, so those artifacts can tap for mana. Marsh Flats, that fetch, and they shall know no fear. I've kind of tweaked it so that it's a little bit more of a fairy kindred deck, and so this fits in there perfectly. Choose a creature type. Creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+0, gain indestructible. Great protection. Great way to boost it even more. A little bit more anthem theme in here. Swamp, island, all that glitters. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So you throw that on a Layla, and it's just going to be a beater. Also gaining you a ton of life, and casting creates a fairy token. Winter Cursed Rider has ward pay 2 life. Artifacts you control have ward pay 2 life. Also, it has a little bit of a wrath effect on it, but it's pretty sweet. It's giving your artifacts protection. Not necessarily a Layla, but it's going to give a lot of your artifacts protection. Encroaching Mycosynth, non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. The same is true for permanent spells you control and non-land permanent cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. So whenever you cast a permanent spell, it is an artifact. It will trigger a Layla, and you're going to go to town. Underground Sea, Solum Simulacrum. It's ramp, it's draw, it's perfect for a Layla because you're going to get a fairy out of it. Sensi's Divining Top. I mean, what can't be said about it? The great thing about this is every turn you can draw a card. The next turn you're going to draw it, cast it, basically getting a free fairy out of it. Call of the Ring, just an enchantment that allows you to draw. It'll trigger a Layla. Swiftfoot Boots for that protection. 3-Tree City. You are, it's going to get you a lot of cards because you're a fairy deck. Bident of Thassa. It is an artifact or enchantment that'll get you a fairy. And also, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you may draw a card to a player. Soul Ring for that ramp. Ornithopter of Paradise for that ramp. And both for that fairy. Eldrazi Monument. Creatures you control get +1/+1 to have flying and indestructible. You're making a bunch of tokens. You should be able to always have something to sacrifice. So the indestructibility makes your board really hard to get rid of. Also, giving everything flying gets that little pump from Alela, and it's a beautiful card. Fanatical Devotion, sacrifice a creature, regenerate target creature. So you should have enough fairies to be able to sacrifice to Alela to protect it. Also, it's something that you can cast and create one of those fairies. Academy Ruin to get back any artifacts that die. Wayfarer's Bauble to go get some land, also creating a fairy. Reconnaissance Mission. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, draw a card. You can see that little bit of theme in here. It just draws you a ton of cards. The Black Gate, making sure that Alela can get through, giving it fear essentially. Lava Spur Boots, haste, a little bit of protection. Emery, Lurker of the Lock, another way to cast artifacts from the graveyard. Also, um, you're just going to have artifacts in the graveyard. You saw Wayfarer's Bauble and stuff like that. So I think it's a great card in here. Skull Clamp, you sacrifice any of those fairies that you're creating to draw more cards. Combat Research, way to protect Alela a little bit with Ward 1. When Alela deals damage, you get to draw a card. Also, it's a cheap aura that's going to get you a fairy as well. Talisman of Progress. I always like playing with talismans in 3-color decks, and it'll get you any of that artifact ramp is going to get you a fairy. So Arcane Signet, another Surveil land, Mox Opal for that free stuff, free spells are really nice with Alela. All right, last bit. Lightning Greaves for that haste and protection. Monumental Henge. Essentially, if you're somehow running out of cards, you can look at the top 5 and put a historic card into your hand. So you're an artifact deck, this should be in there. Refines Tower for that Tri-land. Talisman of Hierarchy, another one of those rampers. Spark Double. If you want more fairies, why not make more Alelas and get a bunch of that stuff? Swamp, another Talisman, black, blue one. Esper Sentinel is going to get you a fairy and plenty of draw. Starnheim Courser, artifact and enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so it just makes it easier to cast those spells when you're drawing so many cards. Containment Landscape. This is one I like. These I've been moving over to these. So it's cycle for white, blue, black. There is one for every 3-color combination, and also it can sacrifice to go get a basic plains or a basic island or a basic swamp. It's just a way to kind of slow me down a little bit, but still make sure that I'm hitting my Um, my land drops, it taps for a colorless, which is fine in this kind of stuff. Um, and just varying the decks because 2 color can have Prismatic Vista and Fabled Passage, and my 3 colored can have these. So, Inventor's Fair, you got a lot of artifacts. You'll gain a life and maybe tutor if you need to. Cranial Plating, equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. You got a lot of artifacts. You throw that on Alela, and she's a 1 or 2 hit win. Ethereum Sculptor, artifact spells cost 1 less to cast. It's perfect. Also creates a fairy when you cast it. Island, Godless Rhyme, Safara, Sky's Blade. When it's in play, flying creatures have indestructible, just a way to protect your board. Also, you may pay a white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than pay this spell's mana cost that you almost always cheated into play. So it's pretty sweet in that regard. Planes, Nettle Cyst, another one that when you equip it to essentially a Layla, it gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So it's just a way to pump her a lot bigger to swing in for a 2-shot. Raise the Palisade is there. You choose Fairy and then return all other creature types, and you're going to win the game. Planes, Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh. First activated ability of an artifact you control costs 2 less to cast or activate. Also, you get to draw cards. It's artifact themed Tezzeret. I like it in these decks. Prairie Stream, Fabled Passage. I guess Fabled Passage is still in there, but adaptive Omni Tool. This is a cool new one, but equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So, we have a couple of those. Also, whenever it attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your deck, and you may reveal an artifact card and put it into your hand. So another just card advantage engine along with a big pump. Other planes, Albira, Dreaming Duelist. Whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. So just another way to get a little bit of reach with your fairies if they can't attack. Polluted Delta, Forensic Gadgeteer. I love this one. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, Investigate. Activated abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate. This effect can't reduce. Well, da, 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 da. So it's just make it equip costs. It's just pay 1, sack a clue, draw a card. You're going to get a lot of clues in this deck, and also just allows you to draw. There's a benefit all over. Tap the clues with the Urza. It works. Heliod's Intervention, another way. Expel, it's kind of like a huge bomb in here just to be able to control everybody else's artifacts and enchantments. You're going to win the race after this. Mycosynth Lattice. All permanents, including your opponents, are artifacts in addition to the other types. Mana can be cast any da 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 da. So just turning everything into artifacts is a huge bonus for you. Vidalcan Engineer taps for 2 mana for artifact spells. Spell Stutter Sprite. When it ETBs, counter target spell, if the CMC is X or less, where X is the number of fairies you control, you're normally going to stop some sort of removal with that. Chroma's Will is just a way to end the game. Your stuff gains indestructible, protection from everything, double strike, life link. You're going to win the game after this one. Last Surveil Land, Kindra's Discovery. Whenever a fairy comes into play, you're drawing a card, and whenever a fairy attacks, you're drawing a card. You're going to be drawing a ton of cards. Monumental Corruption, 5 mana sorcery. Target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of artifacts you control. And so you either do that to yourself if you need to draw cards again somehow, or this is just like a burn spell to the dome for your opponent to try and close out a game. Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. Again, get another Alela, get a bunch of fairies. And last one is Asha's Favor. It's aura, enchanted creature has flying, first strike, and vigilance. So makes it a Layla, not tap, first strike, so that death touch kills anything. It already has flying, so it doesn't matter. But the first strike and the vigilance are really nice on there. So if you have your own Alela deck, what have you done with it? What do you like about it? Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a good night. Bye.